Welcome back to Casablanca. This week, I'm covering The Pursuit of Happyness. Honestly, surprised it's taken me this long to review this. It's always been one of my favorite movies. I've got a bias towards movies set in San Francisco, so there's that. Plus, it's a really good movie. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and this was my first time seeing it. This is my first time seeing it since I moved to San Francisco 2 years ago. So, yeah. This time I was, kind of distracted by all the, I've been there. So, yeah, there's that. I'm probably going to experience that every time I see a San Francisco movie. There's two others I want to cover at some point. So, this time I want to cover... Actually, before I get into the movie, I'm going to do the usual... The Pursuit of Happyness is a 2006 biographical film directed by Gabriele Muccino and starring Will Smith, Jaden Smith, and Dan Castellaneta. It's based on the true story of Chris Gardner, who wrote his autobiography, the same name, and it is basically the true story of when he and his son faced homelessness in 1980s San Francisco. And yeah, it's, if you haven't seen it, it came out in 2006. So if you haven't seen it yet, it was a big movie. So I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it if you haven't seen it. Spoiler warning. I want to say there is a few things I wrote here in the notes part. There's when they were filming this movie, when they're shooting around San Francisco, they filmed several actual people, and one of them was Larry Hunt, who was locally known as the Bucket Man. He would drum on some buckets. And I've always seen him in the movie. And so, he's actually shown twice during the opening credits and then for a longer period later in the film during kind of a crucial scene. And so, it was a very memorable scene, in my opinion. I've always remembered that. And I assumed it was an actor, but part of me thought maybe it was a real person. And then I moved here, and then I saw him. I actually saw him a few times, because he was actually, out there, every day. And I've been all over the city, a lot in the last over 2 years that I lived here. And so I have seen him a few times. But when I didn't even think it was the same person, I was just like, hey, that's the guy from Pursuit of Happyness. It'd be funny if it was the same guy. And then a few months ago, he passed away, and it was big news. And they said, yeah, it was the same guy. And I'm like, I saw that guy. I totally saw that guy. And then there's another guy that's in the movie twice as well, that doesn't get mentioned nearly as much or really at all. And I think it's the same guy that I saw. There's this guy in the opening credits, and then later shown kind of off to the side, playing an erhu. And when I visited San Francisco for the first time in 2011, I have a picture that I took of a guy in Chinatown playing the erhu. And it kind of looks like him. So I may have seen two people from The Pursuit of Happyness. Both of them were people that play instruments on the street, which is really cool. So, the movie itself, I've been a huge fan of, and I've seen a lot of people saying that the movie's it's a complete work of fiction. And I've looked, and I haven't read the book. Apparently the book is different from the movie, because that's the case. That always happens. The book has more time to tell the bigger story. but the movie has a limited time, and so the movie like condenses down certain events and stuff, but then people take that and say that all of it is a complete work of fiction. None of it happened. Trying to take away everything that happened. I've actually seen some conspiracy sites. Not like the site itself is entirely dedicated to him, but like some conspiracy places, people, whatever, YouTubers, saying that he was born rich and he completely made up the story to sell books. But I first heard that like 10 years ago, and I looked into that, and it doesn't even make sense, because like there are people who actually like witnessed him going through that, including like known people, like important people, like in like the industry, and then like the guy at the Glide Church. He's actually in the movie too. I haven't seen him. Maybe, actually, because I have a story about Glide. Then that first visit to San Francisco in 2011, I didn't exactly plan it right. I just kind of last minute came to the city with no plans. I'm from Abilene, Texas. Everything was so cheap. In 2011, my rent was $400, and I thought it was expensive. And so I came to San Francisco in 2011, spur of the moment, with $200, thinking this'll last a week. It barely lasted a couple days. And so by the 6th day, I had nowhere to stay. And I had somebody who was telling me, oh, you can go to this church here. There's a church right there on the corner of Ellis and Jones, and it's a place. I'm like, that sounds familiar. And I got there, and it's the same place. Literally, it looked just like in the movie. And I stayed there a night. The last night I was in San Francisco, and I don't recall seeing the pastor that was in the movie, but like he played himself. The guy that's like, there are 4 spots left, and then Will Smith yells in his face, like, I was waiting in line, I was on time. Yeah, the guy he yelled at is the head pastor of the church, and he played himself because he was the one that helped Chris Gardner, and he also kind of vouched for his story, like, hey, yeah, he stayed here with his son, and they did all this and that. And so, like, I have no memory of seeing him when I was there, but I did stay there, so it's possible that I saw him. So that's 3 people from this movie. But yeah, going back to it's a work of fiction. The only thing I've ever seen that actually, because like I've seen like little like small blogs and stuff that can say you can say whatever you want on those little things. I haven't seen any official like websites or anything that say, oh yeah, no, it's whatever. Except there are a few details that people like to pick and choose and say, here's proof that it's all made up. And before I started this episode, I actually, just to kind of do a quick fact check, I looked on YouTube, and I had to scroll past a lot of videos of people. It's like, oh yeah, here's why Pursuit of Happyness is a work of fiction and stuff like that. And to get to one video that is from I consider to be a credible source, was Watch Mojo, saying what Pursuit of Happyness got right and wrong. And it showed, because like it alternated, there was 10 entries, and every other one was, this is what it got right, here's what it was wrong about. And then it said, here's what actually happened. And the things they changed aren't even big things for the most part. Like, he wasn't hit by a car. Okay, yeah, they added that to add drama to the movie. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And he didn't sell bone density scanners, but he did sell medical equipment, a variety of different medical equipment around the Bay Area. And that makes sense for a change for a movie because, as the video even says, his financial issues was more complicated than just the bone density scanner. And for like a 2-hour movie, or it's less than 2 hours, they had to simplify it for the movie. If they like took the time to like go into every little thing that was wrong financially and like every little piece of medical equipment, it was like we're wasting too much time on this. It's not really that important to the story what he sold and why. The important thing is he couldn't sell these things. They just picked bone density scanner as the one thing, and I don't see that as a big thing. And another thing they this one, it kind of seems like a big thing, but like I think it makes sense for the movie, is Chris Jr. wasn't with him the entire time. The mother in the movie had him for part of it, but also like the movie kind of lowers the amount of time that it was. Like, I think I read somewhere that it was actually 2 years instead of 6 months that the course of the movie, and that, well, in the book it was like 2 years, not the whole internship thing. It actually, that was the end of his journey. It started way before that. This journey took place 2 years, I think, and the movie took place over 6 months. And Chris Jr. was with him pretty much the whole time. And because in the real Story, Chris Jr. wasn't with him the entire time, they like to point out and say, see, the movie's a work of fiction. First off, every movie's a work of fiction, even ones based on a true story. Doesn't matter how accurate it is. So you saying it's a work of fiction, it's a movie. I think the most accurate movie I've ever seen was 127 Hours. The guy who it's about was on set, and he even said in an interview, yeah, the only thing about this movie that wasn't accurate was, like, there's a scene at the beginning where he runs into some girls and they like go swimming. He goes, it's the only part that was made up. Everything else was accurate. Even that is a work of fiction because it's a movie. But they like to say that these people like to claim this movie, it never happened. And like, I started to kind of pick up on who was saying that, and like I started, because like, it was like, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago, because like the last time I watched this movie, I was curious and I started to do some research into him. Because every time I see this movie, I had to do a little bit of research into him, a little bit further, kind of update. Like, where is he now? Where's his son? And so about 5 or 6 years ago was the last time I'd seen this movie, and I started to see a pattern of the people who were saying these things and looking at their other content, and they were the type of people to say, to spread that stereotype of, black fathers, they leave and they abandon their kids and they're bad fathers, and here's a movie showing the opposite of their bias, or not bias, the stereotype they want to perpetuate. And so of course they want to say it's fake, and they're the only ones saying that this movie is a complete work of fiction. Like, even the Watch Mojo video I saw, it said, like, it's a true story, it really happened, here's the things that happened that the movie got right, and here's the things that it wasn't entirely accurate. Even when it said that, when it was saying these didn't happen in the movie, it kind of explained why. Like, it had to be cut down for time and stuff like that. Like, there's a reason that it's changed for the movie. And like, Chris Gardner was on set the whole time, so he knows every change that went in. And the original book is still there. You can read the book if you want to know the actual true story, because that is entirely true, because that he had help with that, and like this has been fact checked, and it's not just people who want to say that even the book is a work of fiction, it wasn't written in a bubble. It didn't just like happen and there's like no witnesses and we just have to take his word for it. There are witnesses to his story. And one of them is a pastor. So, yeah. And I just, when I think of this movie, like I think it's a really, it's a feel-good movie. It's a great story. It's a true story. It's San Francisco. And all that. But then, like, because of that side of the internet, like, I also think of that, how, like, I can't talk about this movie without having to defend it at the same time. And so, like, part of me was like, should I cover this movie? And I was like, I will not address that. And then, like, half of this has been me addressing that. So, yeah. I will say, there is one thing about the movie I never really liked, even the first time I saw it, and still to this day when I was watching it. There's a scene when Will Smith and Jaden are on, like, a roof basketball court thing, and he's kind of a jerk to him for a minute, and like, actually, I don't want you to spend too much time up here, because, whatever. And then Chris Jr. kind of looks upset. And then there's a famous scene where, like, he's leaning against the fence, the chain link fence, and then he's, like, giving an inspirational speech to his son. And, like, just, that seemed overdone. It was like the script writer wrote a bunch of inspirational quotes and was like, which one are we going to use? And they were like, yes. Just use all of them. He just, like, rapid fires, like, there's a bunch of inspirational quotes, and it's like, okay, no one talks like this. Like, you just wanted a trailer moment or something. Like, that's, like, the only part of the movie I don't like. And I was like, this is too much. Maybe just, like, one or two of those lines, but all of them, it turns into a Full House episode. Okay, yeah, that's everything about that. Kind of a update. I have the next... after this episode, I have the next 7 episodes planned, including October is the Halloween month. And like last year, I did a movie every week. I'm going to do that this time, too. And since they're so close together, I decided, instead of spending the whole time like, oh, because like that's what I did last time. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I like would decide like last minute, like this is the movie I'm going to do the day that I record it. I decided to plan out to episode 40. This is episode 33. I have through episode 40 planned. So not just the October episodes, I got the episodes leading up to it, including the next one, because I have a bunch of DVDs and Blu-rays that I own, and I'm surprised I haven't covered any of them, and except the only one technically I've covered is Road to Avonlea, and that was only the first season. But I decided I'm basically going to start covering some next episode is a movie I should have covered the day after I got it. I haven't even seen it since I got it. I've seen it once 10 years ago, and it should have been my next review. I've been thinking about it since I got it. Like, when am I going to review that? When am I going to review that? And obviously I never reveal ahead of time what my next episodes are. But I don't own, out of the Halloween movies, I only own 2 of them. And okay, I said there's 5 episodes because there's 5 Sundays in October, but there's 6 movies because the Halloween episode is episode 40, so it's a double episode. That's 6 movies. I only own 2 of them currently. I have the rest on my Amazon cart. I am going to buy them because I want to own these movies. One of them actually is getting a limited edition steelbox release on September 17th. So, I actually, that was just so lucky that I saw that. I looked it up and I saw that it was, I can get the regular DVD, or I can get the regular Blu-ray for $9, or wait a few weeks and get this one for $30, and I'm like, that's a no-brainer. I'm getting the special limited edition. And so I'm going to own most of the upcoming movies because one of them I cannot find anywhere. But it is available on a library streaming app. I just have to check it out the day before I review it. It is weird that it came to that. But anyway, that's the end of this episode. I'm gonna at some point think of a better outro than I'm gonna end it here.